Welcome to a special edition of the Tearsheet Podcast, on the ground here in Orlando, Florida at the FIS Emerald Conference 2025. I'm Tearsheet host Zach Miller. I'm joined here by FIS and Episode Six to announce their partnership, which aims to deliver a new cloud-based and end-to-end digital payments platform that enables financial institutions to expand into new markets. On this podcast, Rob Hudson, John Mitchell, and Charmaine Hugh discuss the complexity of moving money with the plethora of different payment platforms, card types, account structures, and currencies now in use across the global money lifecycle. They will offer insight into their plans for a next-generation solution that cuts through the complexity and explain how together they hope to shape the future of money in motion. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start out by introducing yourself. John, you want to start?
Sure. I'm John Mitchell. I'm one of three co-founders of Episode Six, and I'm the CEO.
And Episode Six does?
Episode Six provides API-driven payments technology for financial institutions, brands, and financial technology companies all over the world.
Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rob?
Hey, Rob Hudson. I'm FIS Head of International Banking and Payments. So I look after all of our core banking payments client and partners outside of North America.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Charmaine Hugh. I'm one of the other co-founders of Episode Six. My day job is CFO, so I run all the corporate functions.
Welcome to the podcast. And since we're on the ground here in Orlando, home of entertainment, I'm just going to ask a weird question. Musical genre that defines your leadership style, and why?
That's tricky.
That is tricky. I'm going to go with 70s rock.
Okay.
Because, well, there's three co-founders of Episode Six, by the way.
Okay.
We're all, I think, more experienced than a lot of startup co-founders. And so more powerful based on sort of musical talent versus being able to cover things up electronically. I think that's similar to the way that we design our platform and the way that we lead our company. We're very raw in terms of the way we do things. We have a very flat organization, and there's not a lot of fluff and masking and hiding. Everything is right out there in the open.
Great. Sounds like a certain level of craftsmanship.
There you go.
Yeah. Rob?
Actually, I'm going to go the other end of the spectrum.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Deep House.
Okay.
So upbeat, but can also sometimes be downbeat. But generally speaking, it's an upbeat rhythm. And is foot tapping and whilst it sounds like a bit of a cliche, it does. Listening to Deep House does, certainly from my perspective, lift my mood, and so I'd like to think it's
Great. Full body experience.
Yeah.
Charmaine?
For me, it's pop. I like to be able to sing along, but more along the line of I like to stay in touch with what is current, what is modern, what are our people interested in these days, what are our clients interested in these days. So stay current.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Great. So let's talk about the new partnership between FIS and Episode Six, and how did this collaboration come about? Would you like to take that, Rob?
Yeah, sure. It goes back a fair while. It's fair to say that we, FIS, have been looking for the kinds of tools that Episode 6 provide for some time. We clearly did some pretty hefty research over an extended period of time. It became apparent that we had probably, a handful that would satisfy. There are all sorts of variables, right? Like the extent to which the organization is real versus I'll build it tomorrow. The level of funding, the level of longevity, potential, functionality, obviously, but also the fit, the cultural fit. It became very apparent very quickly that Episode 6 was the one that we wanted to go with. I think the fit of the people, generally speaking, culturally, we get on very, very well. The teams are great, working well together, so we made the right choice. And really, I guess I'd summarize by saying it was the standout opportunity for us, without doubt. This is not a compromise, not something that we settled on because someone else said no. This was the one we wanted.
Great. How about from the Episode Six perspective?
I think from our perspective, we've always envisioned that if we had a partner with the strengths and the scale of FIS, that our platform would be able to be used in a much broader capacity. We built it from the beginning to be bank grade and resilient, and that's something that I think separates us from some of our more modern competitors. Rob and I actually met 1 year ago here at Emerald.
Wow.
We did, right.
So this was a year in the making, but I think we realized very quickly that there was a shared vision and how if we come together, we can create a really powerful solution for the market that is almost across the board involved in a modernization process, whether it's talk and meetings or it's budgeted and underway. It's there and it's happening. And so this partnership is going to enable us as Episode 6 and with FIS to be able to present a solution that will allow all of our clients to innovate at scale.
And I'll add to that I think we're very complementary across many different areas, not just in terms of solutions, in terms of products, but also skill set among our teams. So, and I feel like I learned a lot about FIS over the last couple of months when we were working on the partnership together, but also learned quite a bit like through this conference. And I think there are a lot of shared values as well. I think, for example, this morning I heard, very focused on customer experience, very focused on security. So those are all things that we are very focused on, at Episode 6 as well.
Awesome. I'd love to shift gears now to the clients that you guys will be serving. What are some of the challenges they face when it comes to moving money?
Most of the financial institutions are struggling to innovate and to keep up with the demands of their consumer and wholesale customers around real-time payments, around the need to have everything in real time. There's a lot of friction in the ecosystem, and these challenges are growing. And so you have, in some cases, systems that have been around for decades that are really designed for a world that's gone, that's changed. And so being able
70s rock.
there you go, 70s rock, yeah.
Come full circle.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the ability to move with the market is a real challenge, and it's something that's not easily done, which is why you see so many fintechs out there who are creating new products and services at pace. In some cases, taking a leadership position.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of the customers and consumers are looking for solutions that are more global in nature. The world is much more connected today than, say, 10, 20 years ago. So the complexity, like John talked about, is getting even more complicated because you need products that can serve, across different countries, currencies, deal with different regulations, and so on and so forth. And so you need that solution to be dynamic enough to cater to all these differences and reduce that level of friction, in particular when you're talking about different rails, different payment types across different countries and regions.
Makes sense. Rob, what are you seeing from the FIS perspective, your clients?
Yeah, I think probably a couple of things. First of all, there is a reliance upon, even if a bank or a financial institution is highly innovative, forward-thinking, does wonderful stuff that is other people want to copy. Take some of the newer challenger banks. They're still reliant on ancient legacy technology to move money around outside of them. And I think that's one of the big challenges that banks have. And there have been steps taken in different parts of the world. There's one in Asia at the minute. Europe have tried 4 or 5 times to bring all of those different legacy gateways together. But it's difficult to get banks to get in a room and agree with each other. It's obviously highly political, it's expensive, and it's just proven difficult. So I think that's probably one of the big challenges that face most of our clients. The other one is typically regulation. That is on every C-level agenda. And when the concept of moving money, if you take moving money outside of the country in which you're domiciled, that's a whole...
Things get so much more complicated.
Yeah, you need to understand, particularly if you're going via, you need to understand lots of different rules, regulations. You need to be in touch with, some countries change laws overnight. It's a minefield, very expensive. So, but we can, there are things that we can do and do actually to make, clearly we've got clients all over the world, so whereas a bank wouldn't necessarily know what's happening in Indonesia or Denmark, we can have far faster insight and react, which is how we can help.
So let's talk about how the combined forces and how this partnership will help to address some of those challenges.
Well, I think if we what I mentioned earlier about enabling our clients to keep up with their customers. The way people pay is changing, and that rate of change is accelerating. And providing the technology that's available via API, that's cloud-based, cloud-native, born in the cloud, that's highly configurable, that allows for new types of products and services to be built at speed, is a game changer. And I think with our our platform integrated with all of the assets and the strength and the scale of FIS, there's really a one-of-a-kind offering that will be available to the world's financial institutions.
Yeah, I think one has to look at cost, disruption, end game benefit. What our partnership does is it allows more nimble, flexible, faster. I don't like the term necessarily lower cost, but it's not an onerous expense that perhaps legacy would be. Particularly when you think about the extent to which legacy tends to be almost like a spider's web of integration. So, and John mentioned APIs. I mean, it's an easier, simpler way of giving clients the ability to change. And I think that, and the whole deployment model is cloud-based, therefore scalable. So you're not sat in a data center somewhere. You're not worried about latency because you're going from one country to another. It's what I would call a contemporary solution set that really all of those institutions that use legacy, and many do, have to wake up and realize that they will get overtaken by the newer entrants. And I think what we have is the perfect opportunity for them.
Yeah, and it's great because it's also not necessarily a rip and replace. We can sit on top, we can sit on the side, and so it's a very smooth transition, and it's a lower risk proposition for someone to want to try something new. It's not a big bang. You can start with one product, or you can migrate one portfolio over, make sure you feel good about it before you do the rest. So from that perspective, I think is an easy adjustment.
Do you think that ability to kind of scale into it will help with the rollout?
I think 100%. Progressive modernization has been a big idea. I think in the late 2010s, we saw a lot of initiatives around rip and replace, and there was a realization that that's just not realistic.
You have to stake your career on it. You're going to be the guy to do that?
Yeah.
And will you be around
10 years?
Well, the thing is, you do it, and then your successor takes the benefit.
Exactly. It's a no-win.
And with progressive modernization, banks and others can move at their pace, at their budgets. And so it's a more palatable way to move into the modern partnership.
Is there an educational component here in terms of helping to educate the client base that this partnership exists, that these capabilities will exist?
That's a very good question, actually, because yes, there is. We're going through a process now of visibility. So we want to clearly, things like this and other initiatives are designed to get the message out. But if I just take your question in a slightly different perspective, education on you need to do something, actually, because a lot of institutions, particularly the more technical side, are either worried about the fragility of their existing system and therefore don't want to touch it, or, as we said earlier, they think, I'll leave that for the next guy. And so, but that's not one can't perpetuate that ad nauseum. So I think there will come a point, and there is coming a point. I mean, we've got smaller banks already in a position where they're taking salary deposits into their current accounts. And that will grow, and these big banks will start to suffer, and they're going to have to do something. Some are. I mean, if you think in some parts of the world, particularly the Far East, there's a lot of activity. Middle East. I think Europe's perhaps being a little bit slow, but then that's because we have a lot of established, big, chunky banks with a lot of infrastructure. But I think that's it's an education of more, or perhaps less about what we have here, the partnership, and more about you need to do this, and this is the value that you will derive from doing it.
It seemed in the early days of sort of FinTech 1.0, there was stories, and we didn't report this, but it was sort of like David versus Goliath, that, if you don't do this, the FinTechs will take your lunch. I don't know if that's still the same story, or it's more like a FinTech integrated with an incumbent may take your lunch. Like it's the future's together, as collaborative, as ecosystem building. And I think banks have gotten a lot better at figuring out how to partner with technology providers. And I think that is a differentiatable skill moving forward. I'm curious how you guys are thinking about, you mentioned the podcast and getting the word out, but how are you guys now, once you've launched this partnership, how are you going to get the word out? How are you going to go to market?
So our teams have been working together across different regions, different countries, and so we collaborate together to reach out to prospect clients to talk about what this new ecosystem really means and what they can do with this. And just to sort of echo a point we talked about earlier in terms of the cost benefit, I think the reason why the solution could be very helpful and could really help bring forward the transformation, the faster modernization, is that deployment is so quick, right? Unlike with some of the older technology, it takes months, if not years, to implement something new. For us, it could be a few months to really get this product, in particular, back to not the rip and replace. We're doing a sidecar, we're launching a new product on the side. You can then bring that product to market so quickly. So the time to value, the time it takes to really realize this is a good investment and you're bringing forward that benefit so quickly should be much more transparent. So once that step is done, then you have the proof point for your risk officer, your CEO, CFO, everybody to sign off on this makes sense for us to continue to make that investment forward. So I think for us, our sales team are out there really, sharing that information.
The reception has been quite positive.
Yeah.
We have seen on the individual prospect level a lot of excitement around this idea. And going back to what you were talking about earlier, when the rise of the fintechs and taking on the big banks has proven to be something that didn't really pan out like folks might have thought it was. I think it was Jamie Dimon who said that we've been here for 90 years and we'll be here for another. The financial strength of a lot of these companies just wasn't there, and then there's all of the fintech crisis and the bubble bursts and what we've seen. But this combination and the financial strength and the scale of FIS means so much to our organization. And it means so much to that CIO who wants to keep the lights on. So, a lot of the objections that we might see out in the market, we don't in this situation. And there's the trust that FIS has built over the years, and being part of that is a big idea for us.
I assume there'll be some storytelling with early rollouts and being able to tell the case studies.
Kind of around examples of often called use cases, but basically examples of how it can be deployed and used by cardholders, by the way, as well as clients. I think on your question, though, just an important point is FIS has, across all of its areas, it has many products. And in payments, equally, we have many products. So what we're doing with Episode 6, and this is coming on to your question about benefits, is effectively putting almost a menu. So if you're a bank, you're brand new, you have absolutely nothing, and all you give us your logo, and you say, I want you to do all of this for me. We can do that. All the way down to, I just want one thing, please. And that, the word that often gets used in the industry is modular, but that ability to cherry pick 1, 6, 8, whatever it is, different products, and put those together into a solution that mixes in with what the client already has, I think that is a tremendous benefit and deviates from the sort of historic position, which is a processor rocking up with a mainframe and saying, right, it's going to take 2 years to get this thing working, and by the way, we need to replace a whole load of stuff you've got. So I think that's a huge benefit.
Yeah,
I do too. A fully integrated, complete ecosystem that's modern and allows innovation I don't really think it's in the market right now. So I think we'll have an advantage.
Yeah, and the other benefit of the ecosystem, the platform, is how easy it is to make changes, because no one's product is going to be perfect from day one, and you need to adapt to what your customers tell you. I need this tweak, and so on and so forth. And so with our ecosystem platform, making changes is no longer going to be, well, I submit a request to my provider, 6 months later they'll look at it, they'll get to it. It takes another months and months to deploy. For basic changes or many changes, is really configuration adjustments for us. So you don't really need technology people. It's really not a change request. It's a business person can go and tweak something through a dashboard. So what that again means is that is time to that adjustment, which is what brings satisfaction to your customers, which increase engagement, increase revenue, so on and so forth. So it's really much more dynamic in terms of how you can look at the solution as part of your product journey, as opposed to somebody like some technology provider that you're quite annoyed with, but every now and again you need them to do something for you.
I think it matters more and more. The market is moving fast,
Right.
and what we talked about earlier, the way people pay is changing. That change is accelerating. So, being able to make these tweaks or wholesale changes or launch new products very quickly is a big benefit to those that are using the system.
We need to keep up the momentum. Right?
Keep up the momentum.
Nice segue.
Before we conclude, I'd like to ask everybody just to think. I'd love to hear your big, hairy, audacious goals for the rest of the year. I'd like to end the podcast with this perspective.
We want to watch the momentum continue to increase with this partnership. It's a big part of our objectives for the rest of the year. It is coming together quite nicely. I think the interest is I know it is. The interest is growing. So we will have some proof points by the end of the year, and you will watch this partnership evolve and grow and just become something very special in the market.
Rob?
Okay, we're almost halfway through the year. I'm going to say I would like to have this up and running with at least 2 banks by the end of this year, or certainly in flight by the end of this year. I think, and that will underscore a lot of things we talked about, benefits, messaging, all of that stuff, because I think that's the proof. And that's where I believe we need to get to.
Great.
Yes. I would like to get all those client agreements signed as quickly as possible.
Charmaine, Rob, John, thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet podcast today.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
great.
having
Let's
us.
Thanks very
let's just
much.
do the little thing, put it in here in the middle.
Let's do it.
Look at everybody. Whoa.